Hi, Bushlebezwe.
Hi, Charlene.
Uh, Thank you very much for agreeing to be on Tactile Visions Woven. It's great to have you on the exhibition. I'm a huge fan of your work, so it was fantastic to have the opportunity to work with you. Could you tell us specifically about the work that is on Tactile Visions Woven?
Okay. The two works, the one work that I have is called Ibuto, and Ibuto directly translated means a group of warriors, which is basically an army. So I kind of shifted that work and tried to turn it into something else that would speak about how women and women in prayer use those kinds of the kind of objects, and how I turned it into it being prayer warrior as opposed to just being a warrior. So that is the one work. The other one is similarly in the same vein. It is called Uhlanga, which is basically a group of people who come together. And that work is also, it's hanging from the roof, which is a lot of wool prayer belts that are grouped together in different colors to bring about the kind of different African church affiliations and different wool kind of combinations that would be put together by people who pray in African churches.
Thanks for that. Can you tell us a little bit about why you've chosen to use the kind of everyday medium that you've used to depict the women and spirituality in the way that you have?
So first of all, spirituality, African spiritual forms are very close to my heart, and I'm very passionate about the way in which they're seen by other people and the way in which they're consumed by people in our own country, and how they were previously demonized, etc. So I thought about using an object which people wouldn't even think twice about. If they were to look at it, they would just, you'll find people knitting, crocheting, etc. To just navigate the subject, because it's an easier object to access. But when it's put together in that way, you don't know quite what to do with it, so it becomes an object which is it this or is it not? What is it meant to be? But if you look closer at it and you start looking around you on Sundays, on any other day that people go pray, you would see that these belts are worn by men, women, etc., who go to pray in the Zion Church, the Apostle Church, specific churches that use these, Kwashembe, etc. They use these to pray. And I thought to myself, because I have one of these belts, I thought to myself, wouldn't this be an object where, if not, it's imbued with so much. There's a lot of thought in the church that goes into it. There's a lot of spirit that's imbued in it. So why not take that and bring it to the fore? And that's the reason why I used that material, because it speaks volumes just as an object itself, but also it means multiple other things. It has multiple other meanings. And these are the things that I kind of wanted people to explore.
Could you also speak to, because I think it's it's quite amazing the ways in which there's the singular belt that you give us an indication of, and then the multiple belts as well, and one can read a lot into that, the kinds of um, this metaphor between the singular and the collective, and the strength that lies between that, but also the fact that the ways in which you show us the wovenness between the singular strands that gets knotted into even the singular belt, and you know, I think if you can either look at it as an unraveling, a belt that's become unraveled, but actually you can also look at it as what goes into the bonding of us, an individual or a community. And so it's an incredibly beautiful metaphor that you provide to us. And so could you maybe speak to us about giving us insight into the kinds of the materialities that you use in your spiritual invocations? Because for those of us who are familiar with your larger body of work right now, we know that you are actually a Sangoma, and so that's quite important part of your identity. And so there is this this very fine line that you negotiate between what you are willing to reveal and not to reveal in your practice as well, between being an artist and between being a Sangoma. And so you're constantly negotiating what you will reveal and what you won't reveal in your practices as well, which is incredibly important. So maybe if you could speak to some of that.
Right. So in making these two pieces of work, when I began thinking about the idea, I think it's important to go back to the title as well, Ibutho and Uhlanga, which basically alludes to a community, to a host of people. Similarly with Ubungoma and African forms of spirituality, you wouldn't just allude to one person. There are many people. When you call a Sangoma, you don't greet them and say, how are you doing? You refer to them as we, because there are many people who make up this one vessel who is a human being in a physical form. So I did not want to, the belt is to harness all of those people. It is to harness the community that is with you. And so when I made these, I wasn't referring to, it's also nice that you can refer to an unraveling. However, I was referring to a coming together. Even with one strand of wool, before you make the belt, they have to make that one strand and put together many different types of strings to make that one strand of wool. So already there's a whole community there. There's a whole it's been put together. And to make this belt, you can't make it by yourself because it would be easier not to. So you also need help from other people. So in itself, the process in itself is an act of having people with you. You do it with other people. It's a communal thing. It's very much people oriented process of making it. And so those were kind of like my thoughts of a coming together, of building together, of it takes the idea. I know it's what do they call it? It's cliche, but it takes a village.
Sure.
Yeah. So
fantastic. Thank you very much for making your work available for the exhibition. It's always wonderful to engage your work and the depth that's in your work and in your practice. So thank you very much for your time in also engaging us in this conversation as well.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having my work and for having me. And I hope everything goes well, and I hope everybody likes the work.
I can't see anybody not. Thanks, Pushnavazra.
Okay, bye, Shani.